Hello everybody, this is Fun Police and I am bringing you a first look slash review of a new game called Fire and Maneuver. It's available for free on Steam right now, so if you're interested in trying it out, I'd actually recommend downloading it. It's an enjoyable turn-based game. The unique gimmick of the game is that both players will take their turns simultaneously. You will give out orders to all of your units, and then the enemy does the same, and then both sides will play out. This creates a really interesting mix of combat where you never know if your orders will end up working out, and you have to plan around potentially what the enemy might do. I downloaded it for free, and I've overall been enjoying it. In fact, I enjoyed it enough to the point that I ended up buying the American Civil War DLC, which not only gave me the DLC, but there's a bundle going on right now that will also unlock all of the nations for you. But let's talk about what Fire Maneuver represents. The Fire Maneuver game is set in the mid-19th century and encompasses various conflicts of the time, such as the Crimean War, the American Civil War, and likely more in the future. When you download the game and play for free, you will have a total of 7 nations to choose from, although you will have to grind to unlock them, as you only get a couple to start out with. I'm not going to go through all of the nations here in this video. Maybe that'll be a future video. If you're interested in that, maybe leave a comment and let me know. And before we get into much further, make sure to like and subscribe to not miss out on more content, especially if you enjoy reviews like this. But looking at the nations, you have the Kingdom of Prussia, the Second French Empire, the United Kingdom, the Russian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Austrian Empire, and then the Kingdom of Sardinia-Piedmont, which is essentially the Italian Empire. And then we also have the United States of America and the Confederate States of America, although these two are in a paid DLC. Each nation is built to have a variety of different units and equipment in there, each one specializing in different tactics and having different strengths and weaknesses. As an example, the Kingdom of Prussia specializes in that its infantry is more mobile than its enemies, and it also can bring in some very modern and powerful Krupp artillery pieces, giving them a decisive advantage at these longer ranges. Meanwhile, something like the Russian Empire, the nation I've actually played with probably the most at the point of this recording, is one that works well with various swarm tactics. Its units are overall cheaper than that of most other nations, and so it will win through a superior amount of numbers. But each nation has its own strengths and weaknesses. Then we head into various things. There are currently only quick matches against random players, but for today I'm going to do a quick training match because it'll be a little bit quicker to play through, and also I'm not very good at the game and I want to give off a good example of various things. But I'm going to quickly start off with the Russians because I'm still the most familiar with them. So when we go into a match, we are able to build our army. We have a certain amount of funds here, alongside a potential period, which might change how the game plays, but for right now we only have one option for that. We can also set up the various features of the map, including eventually the game mode we can probably change, but you can see orders. We're going to also put game speed on instant because the animations are a bit slow, I will say that. Overall, not the quickest thing, and I'm glad there's at least the option to make them quick, but it can be a bit slow otherwise. And we'll stick with the otherwise basic things, although I'm going to change kills to win to 75% in order to not be as long. But anyway, so we have two primary things. You have your units right here in the middle, and then you have an armory here on the side. Every unit has various strengths and weaknesses. You can see them on this right hand side, what they have. Hit points is how much health the unit has. Cohesion is essentially temporary health. It regenerates every turn as long as it's not near an enemy unit, and essentially acts as like a shield, you can imagine. They have to destroy cohesion before you deal damage. So high cohesion means a unit can take a ton of hits and then recover that cohesion and not suffer. We also have range, which is how far the unit can shoot, and speed, which is how fast it can normally move. Units also have various negative traits. For the Russians, these are mostly negative traits. For example, disorganized is something that almost all of their units have, and this means that they regenerate cohesion at half speed, making them overall slower to get back into the fight. But let's talk about some different armories. When you buy a unit, it goes down here into your current unit loadout. And then over in the armory, you can select different weapons to equip your units with, each of these having a different trait and benefit, but costing you money. This Crestian, this militia unit, is currently equipped with the 6 lines rifle, and that gives them +1 range in their firepower, which is quite useful to where they don't have to get so close. I could also arm them with this M1867 Krinka rifle, which has a trait that allows them to shoot twice in a turn, doubling their fire rate as long as I give them the orders to do that. Or I could even just give them some basic muskets, which lowers their cost, making them very, very cheap, but they're not going to have any ability. They can fire only once per turn, and their range is going to be very short. So let's just build out a quick force. I'm going to build what I believe is an efficient little force, but we're going to take access to some stronger units alongside some basic line infantry. We also want to probably grab a couple different cavalry, which are fast moving and hit hard. These guys are great at charging and can blow apart a disorganized enemy. And then we'll also make sure to grab at least 1 artillery piece. And then I'll probably grab something like a Jaeger squad. So I can actually probably bring in something roughly like this. Probably not an optimal way to play, but it's what I'm going to commit with, and we'll get into a quick battle. We're facing against the Ottomans, which are kind of the true swarm faction of the game. So this will be a bit interesting, where normally the Russians have a bit of a size advantage. The Ottomans are able to just overwhelm through sheer numbers, because they have some of the weakest infantry in the game, but overall lack in quality. So we're going to start out by deploying our units, and we will aim to block off this river hex through artillery and our elite grenadier units, which should be able to stop the enemy from crossing this, and we can chokehold their superior numbers. And then we'll also deploy a militia unit. We're also going to deploy several squads over here. In fact, both of my cavalry and some line infantry, so we can quickly rush the side and potentially flank them. And then we'll also deploy several squads to try to fight for these hills and gain control of them. Now, a big thing within this game is that down here, this small blue sector allows us to change formations. And each of these formations has different effects. So, for example, we have the march column, which allows us to use roads and makes these units super, super fast. However, they are also pretty much they're unable to attack, and they're going to get annihilated if they get attacked in any way. So it's a higher risk if you're trying to get to the front line quickly and get caught in a charge or something. We can also do something like the attack column, which gives us the ability to move a little bit faster, and I'm going to actually have most of my units start in this formation so they can quickly get into this area here. But we're also going to bring that. Cavalry doesn't really have a formation, so they are just going to remain as is. But I'm happy with this, so let's get into an actual game. So we're in the order phase now. The way this works is that we have 12 orders to make use of, And with this, we need to select our units, and we will choose where they go by dragging and dropping. So I want this grenadier unit to move along the road into this area, facing towards the enemy. And we can see that that is one order. And then I have to give an additional order, and I can order this however I want. So I actually want this militia unit to move here first, and then I'll have this guy move here. And this is where the game gets very interesting and complicated, as we'll see in a minute, because you have to anticipate how the enemy moves and also what you might need to move. On top of that, we can also have our units move together into a space. So I'm going to actually have my cavalry in front of this other infantry unit. And although that does not matter much right now, it'll be useful in potentially future scenarios. But I've done all I can for now, so I'm just going to send my order. And now we're going to see that units are moving on both sides as each side goes down their list of orders. So for example, my 6th order, which is the 10th regiment moving along the road over here, moved at the same time as his 6th order. And this is really where the uniqueness of the game comes in, because you have to decide when you do certain things and how you perform it. But now we've reached a point where we need to continue along. So I'm going to continue moving my artillery up. But now I'm going to have my grenadier guards, and I'm going to have them switch into closed order, which gives them additional damage and firepower because all of the men are in a line. I'm going to continue, however, moving my militia up. And we can see by his range, or well, they're not actually able to fire right now, but we'll see in a minute that every unit has a bit of a special range. For example, this unit can fire 2 spaces in front of it right now. However, that's also changeable based on what order we give. There's a lot of complexity, and I won't be able to explain it all now, but we're going to keep moving forward. I'm actually going to change these guys to be in a line, but we'll keep moving our other units up in order to try to get to this hill before the Ottomans do. And we'll keep advancing our other units in order to keep the pressure on. I'm going to have my cavalry actually block the enemy forces. So I want instead my cavalry to move along this road, and then I will have my infantry right behind them, so these cavalry up here can't charge them. And then we'll keep moving our cavalry up. And then I believe that is all I can do. So again, we'll send the orders, and both sides will start moving. Now this is against an AI that is pretty much locked to very easy, so these are not the greatest opponents, but they should relatively be decent enough just to show off the basics of the game, but they're not a real challenge at the moment. So now I'm going to have my units change formation. This 5th regiment, I want it into the line formation, which will then give them the ability to fire at this enemy cavalry unit. On top of that, I'm also going to swap in. I'm going to have my skirmishers move forward and my various other units, because we're going to try to blast this enemy unit. Another unique thing is that we have the ability to... Another unique thing is that we have the ability to overall have our units do something called fire at will, and essentially they'll shoot at the first thing that moves into range. This is really useful with artillery because if these infantry march down this road, this cannon will get a free shot on them and break up some of their cohesion before we get anywhere near them. So now I'm going to move my units, and we're going to start shooting at some of these Ottoman forces. So the cavalry actually charged my line, which was getting them into a close range fight, but it's actually not going well for them. They're starting to take damage. As you see, they've actually lost a fair amount of their damage already. Frontally charging a line of infantry is not the best move in their part. But now we're going to also hit this cavalry with a barrage of shots, and then we're going to have our infantry immediately charge it. Which should overall really bind them down. We're also going to move our cavalry up. We're going to have our units fire again. I'm going to keep moving my units up. And now we have this high ground, which gives us further range. Our units are able to fire further. And we also get this cover bonus because this is a hill. This has some villages in it. So it's going to be extra hard for the Ottomans to do anything in regards to that. We're going to actually... I'm going to have these guys get involved in the fight also. This militia squad will help to deal this killing blow to this cavalry and allow our infantry to recover quicker. I'm going to keep up the free fire at will for the cannon. Oop. But I'm going to also move my grenadiers up. The game is definitely still a little bit buggy. I've noticed that some orders are, for whatever reason, difficult to give. Like, for example, here, I'm, for whatever reason, unable to have my artillery fire at will, which is a bit of a shame because, like, that'd be really nice right now. But yeah, it seems like there's definitely some... Being in early access and all that, it's not the most cohesive. But I guess I'll just move my artillery up. And then I'll move my militia behind them. So my cannons will be able to fire next turn immediately. And then I can move these guys in front to block any advance by the Ottomans. But I guess that is good for now. So as we see, we're shooting and we just charged and completely destroyed that cavalry unit. Our units are moving in. We're charging in, dealing damage. So we've now successfully broken this cavalry unit also. And we're going to take a shot here. And then we will also have this militia unit move forward and take a shot. Fire at will. Now, units can't move over villages, so that is a bit of a downside. But we'll have this grenadier here to protect our artillery. But we've done a good job of breaking their initial push early on, so we can continue with pushing forward and overall putting pressure on them. They have a lot of infantry approaching alongside some cannon, but if we do this right, we should be able to... So 6th Regiment... So I actually want the cavalry to be facing this way to potentially produce the damage, but we'll keep heading on in. Our units are moving, and we're blasting them and softening them up. So we've taken shots at them and are softening them up. Now we get one thing where we're going to have our Jaegers move in, and these guys can fire twice, so we're going to take 2 shots at this artillery piece, and then we're going to immediately afterwards charge it, and that should almost wipe out their cannons, which is going to be great for us in order to weaken them. And then we're also going to have our riflemen take some shots and try to soften up this weaker militia squad right here. Meanwhile, over here, it actually does not look the best. Our militiamen's probably going to get hurt a fair amount, so I'm actually going to just spend my last couple orders trying to protect that and punish them if they try to cross the river at all. So they are shooting, but our cannon just got heavily hurt and just got destroyed. Although they are now also in a melee with this militia unit. So there. Now we can continue to move around and pull our forces forward. We're going to have our cavalry also charge this unit and hopefully break it. We'll continue bringing our troops forward. And I'm going to actually pull this Jaeger back a little bit so it can hopefully regain its cohesion for a turn, which will be nice so it won't be as vulnerable as it is right now. And then we'll even have our militiamen. We're in a pretty strong advantage right now, so I feel like we can even give up the high ground. Ooh, they shot at our militia and they were forced to fall back. But we're in a pretty dominant position now. There's not a whole lot they can do to really beat us back. Although I am actually going to pull my cavalry out of there because it's actually taking quite a beating. And I don't want it to lose too much strength. So we're going to pull that back, and then we're going to just simply have our guys blast them. And then we will drag this militiaman into the front line to take hits and protect our cavalry. And that should probably shatter most of the units. We're also going to get really far behind them and outflank their units even more. We're going to have our various units moving forward. Although the cavalry or the artillery is a bit awkwardly placed. So I'm actually going to move it. So next turn it'll be able to shoot at those guys. And meanwhile, I'm going to move these guys up. And that should be good for the turn. So although they still have a good amount of infantry left, it's not the strongest force in the universe. So I'm going to break them up, and then I'm going to have my grenadiers move in after the artillery to take a shot at them. These guys are able to shoot twice, and they have a trait that gives them more range damage. So they should be able to probably beat up this more powerful infantry unit pretty decisively. Meanwhile, we're going to continue to just keep blasting away at this unit. But as you can kind of see, I'm ordering my units in a specific way that is so I can maximize them. So this militia squad moves in, fires, and then takes the back line so my other squad can immediately shoot, although seemingly it's a bit buggy. But now they should be able to fire. Well, it's still a bit buggy, sadly. Bit awkward in how you can do some of this stuff, but regardless, we're going to blow these guys apart, and then we're going to have our cavalry come in and charge them. These weak militia units should fall apart with that. And then after we wipe out those couple militias, all that remains is just a handful of infantry over here that we'll slowly pick apart at. And then we will be done with this match and probably this video. So we're still blasting them apart. You can see they're taking damage, doing quite well. Again, it's not the best AI in the world right now. But we're just gonna keep going, keep charging along, keep the pressure on high. I will say that probably my biggest complaint right now is that there is a lack of explained mechanics. For example, something that I keep forgetting because there's not really a tutorial in this game, but cavalry can't like charge if they don't have any movement points left, and that can be really awkward and is really kind of important to know, yet we're never told about it. So if that's my one biggest complaint about the game right now, outside of the bugs that are just going to be here because it's kind of an early access game, is simply that it is kind of just not explaining important ideas to us. But we're almost done here. In fact, we are done because I sent it to 75%. But it is a battle, and hopefully you can kind of see what is going on with it. You get experience and what are called merits, which is how you get new factions. There's also some things such as campaigns, like the Crimean War or the American Civil War content. These have unique effects and kind of play in a different way. You have those battles, which I just showed off, but you also have things such as controlling a larger army on the battlefield, including this more strategical map. Now, there's not a tutorial out for this, so almost nothing of this is explained, and I haven't explored it a whole lot. So we'll save that for maybe a future video. But otherwise, that is my first look at the game, just playing a quick AI game and showing you kind of what the game has to offer. So far, I've enjoyed it. I do think there needs to be some improvements, including some work, especially in terms of tutorial and teaching you important mechanics. But I like where it is right now. So As I said at the start of the video, if you enjoyed this review, make sure to like and subscribe, and then tell me down in the comments if you download and try this game. I'm always interested in what what you guys think of games, and if you enjoy the videos. But otherwise, I want to thank you so much. Have a good day.